Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about assessment, and for that purpose I'm going to follow this guide through this map. Okay, uh, the first place, let's talk about my assessment practices. I want to highlight this keyword, reflection. That's because in my case, I have a kind of habit. I, I used to reflect a lot on what I do right or wrong. For me, it's a kind of a useful process through which I go back and think about myself. Um, and after that, I try to set a kind of a plan to improve. And I have included here because I think that reflection has a strong relationship with assessment. Because during the process of learning and, of course, being a teacher, we need to reflect a lot on what we do, on what we plan, and also on what we find when developing the lessons and the answers from the students. The second place, let's talk about my assessment practices related to my teaching. Well, I would like to mention that I have been using students' English portfolios. I started some years ago. At the beginning, I used them with all my students. I mean, if I had or if I were teaching in sixth grade or 10th, 11, well, I invited students to use English portfolios, and I guide them through the process. For those who are not familiar with English portfolios, the idea is to have like a kind of folder in which students are going to attach their works, but with a process of reflection, with a process of answering some key questions through which students reflect on what they did well, about their difficulties, about the things they liked and the things they didn't like, and also in which they include their commitment for improving. I found it a little bit difficult to handle because if at that time I use them with all my students. I'm talking about more than 150 students. So imagine what it implied when checking, when reading all of their reflections. Because of that, I decided to change, or better to adapt that practice. And nowadays, I have decided to use English portfolios just with students who are starting their English learning process. This year, for example, I'm using English portfolios just with fifth graders. Then I decided to use class discussions with all the other students as another method to assess the learning and teaching process. Well, class discussions have been a special space in which students express themselves, and they evaluate their own performance and their partner's performance. They have learned how to give their opinions with respect and also how to listen to their partners with respect, and it has been quite interesting, the process. They feel free to express their opinions, suggestions, advice, and also when I use class discussions for says one of my lessons, my students give me feedback by telling me what they like the most and maybe what they didn't like, what they prefer, or giving me a suggestion for next activity or something like that. It has been interesting. Through those practices, my idea is to try to involve the students in the assessment process through self and peer assessment to have a kind of continuous feedback. Um, that's because I take into account something that I read some years ago, written by Mali and Chamot, related to learning strategies, especially metacognitive strategies, which I relate with assessment process. Well, let's continue with this question. Are you assessment literate? In my case, I say that I'm on the track. I'm on a starting point because I have included specific moments to check and evaluate the quality of learning, as it was suggested by Hart in 2007. And I have been learning on assessment methods. At this moment, I'm interested in learning how to use effective checklists and rubrics to continue to reinforce that assessment process. About the concerns I have, I would say that in the place where I work, there is not a consensus among teachers to reinforce assessment practices. I have found some of them who follow special assessment practices. I learned a lot from them, but I also have found some others who don't care about it. It's interesting, the assessment process, but it's demanding, it's time consuming. So that's why I'm looking for more practical methods. The plan I have is to implement the use of checklists and rubrics to help students use learning log to keep doing and improving, to involve the students in the assessment process, having in mind suggestions given by White 2009. Well, I want to finish this assignment by sharing this quote. The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, and the great teacher inspires. So please, let's continue inspiring our students. Thank you very much for watching this vlog. Remember, it is my first vlog, so please forgive all my mistakes. But it was challenging, it was not easy for me, but I did it. Thank you so much. See you.